Hello there, everyone. Welcome to episode 98 of the Play to Win podcast, the show we break down the week's biggest gaming news through in-depth discussion. My name is Tyler. I'm your host this week, and I'm joined once again. It's been a week, but by my co-host Tyler here. How are you doing, dude? What's going on?
I'm all right. I lived, bitch. If you've seen that, I don't know if you've seen that that meme before, but that person that had a heart attack, their dad sent them that picture. And it's just like him, with the tube in his nose and everything. I lived, bitch. That's me right now. Can't get rid of me that easily.
You made it through. It was a difficult move, it sounds like.
Yeah, it wasn't fun, but here I am a week later. Well, 2 weeks later for you guys, but really it's more like been a week for me roughly. And I'm here talking about video games despite having not played any for the last week and a half because of the chaos of moving. But I'm back, West Coast, best coast, baby. Well, I don't know. I think West Coast snobs would say, oh, Arizona's not the West Coast. Well, listen, if it's this hot, it counts as the West Coast. That's my opinion.
I would be there with you on that.
Arizona's basically California, but hotter with no beaches. So yeah, it counts to me.
I would be there with you. Like, yes, technically it is not on the coast. Of course, we know that. But like temperature wise, it is.
If anything, let's kick out Utah. They shouldn't get to be here. Those weirdos.
What do you got against Utah? What they do to you?
No offense if anyone that listens is from Utah, but you guys are some real weird. Too many Mormons in one state. It's just it influences the laws, and that like it's not West Coast in spirit. West Coast is like more of this free kind of, just like, hey, we've got more lax laws. Of course, weed rolled through here being legal pretty early on. It's just in general, it's like the West Coast is a state of mind almost, and Utah does not fit the parameters for this state. Now, I've met some nice people that have lived in Utah, been from Utah, but the state as a whole skews me out a little bit despite being very beautiful.
I've never been, and I never knew these things about Utah.
Oh no, I've just seen pictures, and like I know that it's beautiful. I'm personally never going.
All right. Now I have this in mind when I think of Utah. I was gonna think of just like, you don't fit parameters. You're not up to par.
They're not the West Coast. Yeah, like they fit fine with the South or the Midwest is personally my opinion of where they should be. Let's just geographically relocate Utah.
We'll just change the map. We'll just move you over here. We'll change the shape of certain other states and all. Maybe you'll like bleed over to another state. We'll make it work. We'll figure it out.
Anything, a lot of people in Utah might be like, hey, they might not like the West Coast for those same reasons. Might be an upgrade for them.
Perhaps it will be.
Hey, honey, we're right next to Ohio.
Oh, hey there, guys. Nice to you join us. Come join us over here in the Midwest.
Utah is the Ohio of the West Coast. I feel like some people will understand that. Other people are like, I don't get what's going on, and you never will. It's okay.
I don't get it, and neither will I.
It's all right. Never will
either. Subscribe if you enjoy this conversation, or our actual conversations about video games that we have every single week. Subscribe our podcast services and hit that notification bell. If you're on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube as well. Leave a like, leave a comment, share the show with anyone and everyone. This week, it's not a lightish week. There's something to talk about, some interesting stuff to talk about. Going to try to get through this episode fairly quickly because I have plans. I have things I need to do, and I'm on a bit of a time crunch with it. So we're going to talk about these things, maybe speed through some things, but still, have a fun, good conversation about them like we normally would.
There's not much to talk about, so I think we're all right.
Yeah. I think we're good. Especially since, as you said, you haven't really played much since you were in the process of moving and everything.
Yeah, there's only two main topics. So even if you're running late, we can just go with all the brief mentions. We can just briefly mention it for 3 seconds and then move on.
Yeah, there's three main topics. So there's three. One of them being Starfield has a release date, an actual release date, one that makes sense and sensible. We got some E3 info, and Resident Evil 4's Collector's Edition that's a giant problem going on with that right now. It's unfortunate, but also kind of funny at the same time.
I'm getting both of these news segments live to me as well, because despite trying to keep up, and I did keep up with certain things, I did not know either of these. What is what is Starfield's release date?
Okay, well, shoot, I guess we'll move things around then, because actually I was gonna do that second, but we'll do it first because it can go first actually.
Okay, my bad.
Uh, you're fine, you're fine. It can
It's
work
on the
like this.
docket as first, so I just assumed we were talking
It
about that first.
because I originally had it as first, but then I moved
Oh,
things
okay.
around, and then I just never changed that. But you know what? It can still work first because that's how I had it originally anyway. Like I said, so Starfield, we got a release date for it. Before originally it was set to release on what November 11th, 2022. That was
11,
announced.
yeah, 11/11/22, which was 11 years after Skyrim's release of 11/11/11.
Yeah, and that was announced back in June of 2021. What happened? Obviously, it did not get released.
They missed it.
Yep. And then last year, Xbox said in their June show, everything that you see here is coming out in the next 12 months. And then we got to January and February, and we were like, we know a lot of Xbox game releases for the first half of the year up to June. Where is Starfield going to slot in? And it just made sense. Like, if it's not like if we don't have a date for it right now or a month for it, it just has to be pushed, but like the second half of the year, because it doesn't make sense to like try and squeeze it in and have it take away time from people. So we now know Starfield's releasing on September 6th, 2023. This was announced in a trailer of sort, a release date announcement trailer that Bethesda put out, where the first half of it is new in-game footage. There's a bit of like dialogue narration in the background, but really it's like setting the tone, getting you more hype for this new world we're going to be in. And then the second half of the trailer, or the video I should say, it's Todd Howard coming out saying, hey guys, I know you're excited for the game, we're excited too, we got this new release date. It's talking about the game, how happy they are to be working on it and everything. And you see more like off screen footage of people playing the game on a TV, working on the game on like on their computers and stuff like
The
that.
old the old EA special.
The old EA special, except it works better here.
Yeah,
uh,
because you believe the game will actually get released sometime this century.
exactly. And I gotta say, like you said you didn't hear about this. I have the trailer linked if you want to just take a look at it or anything like that. Um, but like I honestly think like the trailer, looks great. It's continuing to get me more excited, more interested in this world that they're building with Starfield. But the off-screen footage that we saw of the people's like running around on planets or doing some shooting or whatnot, it looked better than with the last time we saw it. Like I think personally, I mean, it's what you would expect. It's been a whole almost a year later. You would expect it to look better, but no, like it actually genuinely looks like it's playing better, running better, just visually. I was like, hey, this is looking
Yeah,
dope. I'm very happy to see this right now.
I'm looking at it right now. It so far it's that intro crap for every trailer. Um, so far it's pretty much the same. I've been a very vocal critic of this of like what we've seen, so we'll see if it sways me at all. But
I doubt it
um,
will. I will say that I doubt it will,
I
but it's
will
getting
say
me more
though,
excited.
I took Microsoft at their word, the big dumbass that I am, and was like earlier we had this conversation a few episodes ago where you were saying, oh well, it's obviously not going to meet the June, and I was like, I don't know, like because I did assume Microsoft would be fine, and I still believe Microsoft would have been fine. Just putting this announcing a release date for like April right now. I
Mm-hmm.
think this ultimately had to have been a Bethesda thing of, hey, this ain't ready. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
Bethesda had to ask for this much time. The most hilarious part is I guarantee internally they were like, can we get till 2023? And Microsoft was like, absolutely not.
You mean 2024?
Oh, 2024. Yeah. They're like, sorry, I'm still, my brain's so behind. I have registered that it's the new year. No, yeah, I 100% believe they were like, can we get to like January? They were probably like, oh, March 2024. And Microsoft is like, no,
No,
100%.
we can't miss
Absolutely
this
not.
another year. We cannot miss Starfield for another year. That can't happen.
Ship it. We didn't want it to ship bugged, but ship it bugged if you have to. We need this thing.
No,
um,
it's funny. I will say, like watching this trailer, this announcement here, right?
mhm.
Watching it, I was like, this feels like a Bethesda release date announcement, as opposed to the first release date announcement that we got, which even when that was announced, I was like, I will believe it when I see it. Like I had no faith in that release date. I was like, when they announced the 11/11/22 thing back in June 2021, I was like, that is purely a power move just to be able to say we have Starfield and it's coming to Xbox. Like that was solely what that was. I was like, I don't believe that release date because no one announces specific release dates that far in advance. Like no one does that unless you just want to do it because you can. So
Yeah,
like
they
but
definitely
that's
wanted it just to meet the anniversary stuff. Um,
right. And like Bethesda, their
is
Todd
it
Howard's MO is announcing the release dates way closer to an actual game coming out, like about 6 months out. So this just doing it in that method, and also just the tone of the video, the way he's talking to us, just felt way more in line with the way Bethesda would actually do it, as opposed to the Microsoft Xbox get hype, we got Starfield coming to us, get hyped, type
is it
feeling.
is it fair to dub Bethesda the anti-Insomniac? Because
What do you
I
mean?
just feel like that's what they are. Like it takes 8 years to make a game for them, or a decade. And it's bug ridden, and I personally don't believe they ever live up to the hype. I know I'm alone sometimes in that regard because like I'm not a big Skyrim guy. It's just in general they don't make my kind of games, which I understand. But like even for those genres, they seem to fail to meet the benchmarks of a lot of like Fallout 3 and Skyrim are kind of like highly regarded, but outside of that, they've kind of got some mid-ass games. Um, and
Hard disagree.
Insomniac is just the opposite in the sense that they pump out quality, they pump it out a ton of it, and they pump it out very quickly.
They do, but I
If
mean,
you were putting both
I
those studios out on the free market, people would be like, "Oh, it's probably similar." My guess is Insomniac would sell for way more, especially with how well they do with licensed games. Like that shit is invaluable, I imagine, to Sony. Like Sony's gonna have to pay up whenever that contract is up again because the quality and the speediness, the expediency of which they make it is kind of unheard of.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, you also have to take into consideration that they're making very different games. Like, Insomniac's game, like the Ratchet and Clank games,
Yeah, you're right.
far more
Insomniac
linear.
makes good games.
Well, I mean, like just like design wise, like they're like in the Ratchet and Clank games, way more linear, linear focus. Uh,
Spider Man.
Spider-Man is open world, but like it's nowhere near on the scale of like an open world in-depth RPG that Bethesda's game studios makes with their Skyrims, their Fallouts. Like
Yeah, but
it's
also
very different types. It's like it's not even apples to apples. It's apples and like in broccoli. Like it's
I have
completely
not.
different realms.
Okay, but would you rather wait 10 years for broccoli or 3 years for an apple?
It depends on the game I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah. See, this
Like
is
again, it depends.
the
Like
Bethesda
what do we
defender
want?
has entered the chat.
Not even being a Bethesda defender, it's just being a realist here. Like I like Bethesda's games, and it's also because like you don't really care for Bethesda's games, which is totally fine. But like
And
I
also,
know Bethesda's games and the
the
quality
broccoli
that
has
they are.
inconsistent the broccoli has inconsistent texture, and you're like, did you steam this and microwave it? And they're like, yeah, it was like halfway done in the microwave, and then the microwave died, so we put it in the steamer.
You're such a hater over here. Oh my
That's what
gosh,
they do, man. That's their thing.
nah. That's and you see that that's a nice segue. Ryan McCaffrey, he had tweeted out after this was announced that Starfield better be the most polished Bethesda game ever released after like
Oh
such a
yeah, it
long
has to
delay
be.
from 2022 to September 2023. Like it has to be, if not flawless, it needs to be damn near flawless when it comes to polish and bugs and all like that. And I'm hoping it is, because that is going to be like something that people are going to be looking at them for, especially after Fallout 76 came out and got ripped to shreds because of its bugs and everything, and especially after Cyberpunk came out and the bugs that was having when it came out and all like that. Like there's expectations and standards and acceptance for bugs in games has grown so much in the past couple years that people aren't going to accept the usual level of Bethesda jank. Like, of course, people will give it leeway, in regards to like, okay, if the actual game quality is up to snuff, we can give leeway, we can give a pass to certain things. But like, if there's just like a litany of game breaking bugs or bugs that
It's
ruin the
over for him.
experience,
Yeah.
as opposed to like the hilarious type of bugs where like, hey, I'm talking to this character and they just spazzed out or something. Like it's very hilarious bugs that happen every so often are very different from game breaking, ruining bugs and all like that. So in that regard, I hope it's the most polished ever. It needs to be because
Yeah. I mean,
aside from that, it's also Starfield new IP. Like there's a lot riding on this game.
this is gonna be incredibly embarrassing for me if Starfield ends up being my game of the year. There's no way
I
it's better than
hope it is. I
There's
hope
no
it
way it's
is.
better than Hi-Fi Rush though, so I'm not worried.
I I hope it is because dear Lord, or at least I hope it at least makes it into your top 5 or top 10, whatever ranking you do. I
Listen,
hope
I'm
it
not
does,
against good games. The problem is Bethesda does not make them to me personally. Um,
which is
but
fine. Just fine.
but if how embarrassing if I feel like that would be a testament to how mid this year was, though, right? That would mean Tears of the Kingdom probably has to be not very good, or it's like that and Hi-Fi Rush are the only games I enjoyed. But I don't have some incredibly high level of barrier for enjoyment. So I feel like I don't know. I feel like I should be okay, but man, the embarrassment if that ends up being top 5 for me.
We also got confirmation that there is going to be a Starfield Direct happening on June 11th. We already knew that there was going to be a specific Starfield showcase happening at some point. Now we know the date. It's on June 11th, the same day as Xbox's game showcase. It's going to be happening right after their Xbox game showcase on June 11th. We don't know timing yet. Of course, we'll find that out as we get closer to the date. But that's
Yeah.
happening then, so we could expect
Chalk,
a nice deep dive into the game then.
chalk this one up as a dub because this means I don't have to see Starfield in Microsoft's Direct. Because honestly, we've seen enough of Starfield. If you're hyped, you're hyped. If you're not hyped, you're like whatever. And
I would
so
argue we haven't
I
seen
don't.
enough.
I I mean, listen. Do you really want that taking up 10 to 15 minutes of Microsoft's Direct? If you're being honest with yourself, no, you'd rather have sweet trailers
No, yeah, I would.
inserted
I
into
want it
that.
to be. It needs to have its own
Yeah,
showcase that
this is
where you get a
perfect.
deep dive. This is the perfect way to go about it. Which is why I'm saying I would argue we haven't seen enough, and this gives us the time and space to see more of the game that we need to see 2-3 months before it comes out. Like it's the
We've
perfect way to do
we've
this
both not seen enough and seen too much. It's somehow checking off every box.
for you.
Because I would agree, but also I was bored with what we saw last year. Like I was legit just like, can we move on? And I think it was the last thing, and I was like,
Yeah,
that's it.
I'm ready to
That's
see
it.
more. I'm ready to see more. And this actually perfect segue. Uh, so June 11th is when this Xbox Game Showcase is happening, and we also got confirmation Xbox is not going to be at E3 this year. E3 they announced that they're going to be having a digital showcase week that starts on June 11th. And this week there's going to be a bunch of digital showcases that they're going to be putting on and everything. Some of the shows that they've announced that will be part of it will be the PC gaming show and the future game show. But other events and participants that will be taking place, those will be announced in the future. They haven't been announced yet. What the ESA has said right now is, well, not ESA, ReadPop, the ones organizing it. They put out a quote saying, quote, exhibitors from AAA companies to indie darlings and tech companies will be announced leading up to the expo, end quote. So we don't know exactly who, and that's part of the thing. It's still really up in the air, everything surrounding E3 this year, whether it be the physical show floor, the digital space, and everything. It's like it's really up in the air who's going to be there. Normally by now, we generally have an idea, a more solid idea of who's going to be there. But at this point with this new show, it's like, what's going to happen? What's going on? Even the people who would be there, they're like, well, if it happens, we'll be there, like Ubisoft, but like,
E3's dead, y'all.
right. Before real
Spoiler
quick,
alert.
before I get into that, Xbox did say they're not gonna be on the show floor. But their showcase, they will co-stream it with E3 as part of Digital Week. So they still have one foot in the door, but they're mostly out the door on E3 this year. Which goes into what you said, which is what many people have been saying, and what even I said last time we talked about this. E3 is slowly dying at this point. Like,
but only in the form of literal E3, like the actual company and the actual name. E3 E3 is like the West Coast. It is a state of mind. It will always live on as far as games conferences or whatever directs, whatever we want to call them. As long as games are announced and shown off in June, that is E3. That is the spirit of
yeah,
E3, and I think that'll keep on happening. But it's probably going to be under whatever Keeley's, whatever we're going to call it, Summer Game Mess or
Summer Games
whatever
Fest.
Games Fest.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing. Like, for me with this E3, as you said, it's growing up. E3 was an event because it was the event. It was the only event in that season and everything like that. And as time has gone on and everything, there's been more things happening during E3 season, but we all still know it as E3 season. And even in the during the COVID years when E3 wasn't happening, everyone still referred to it as like, oh, E3 season. That period of time. You know exactly what that means. That June time frame. So, but now it's in my head. Although I still look at it as E3 season, I'm starting to call it summer showcase season because E3 is going to be nothing but more than just like a state of mind, a name at this point, a brand name. The actual events itself is never going to get back to what it once was
Yeah,
because of just decisions that were made and also changes in the industry and the culture in terms of how we get these announcements, um, how we watch events, so on and so forth, how publishers choose to divvy out their news, whether they want to divvy it out throughout the year instead of waiting for one or two big gaming showcases throughout the year. Like, all this stuff has changed. The internet has changed the way that we get this information. And E3 was, aside from, like, this is me speaking strictly from a viewer, not a journalist who goes to the event. Because of course, going there, covering it, being there on the physical show floor is a very different thing from being an outsider watching it
I wouldn't even want to this year.
online.
I'll be real. If I got an invitation, I
I
wouldn't
know you
go.
you said you'd be like, "Hey, Keely, can I go over there instead?"
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, I would pawn it off and use it as leverage of like, got invited to E3, Keely, want to invite me over to Summer Game Fest? There's a cool kid party.
Yeah, but yeah, like, it's a shame, and I think at this point, what E3 can do, or at least the best thing that E3 could do, you know, Xbox isn't going to be on there on the show floor. Nintendo's not going to be on there on the show floor. Sony will almost certainly not be there on the show floor in any way, shape, or form. They're going to be doing their own showcase, rumored before June. Who knows what they're going to be doing? If they're going to do anything co-streaming, co-partnering with E3 that week, who knows? Um, but I think the best thing they could do, aside from doing everything in their power to try and bring any one of the big three or all of the big three back into the fold, the next best thing they could do would probably be say, you know what, get whatever AAA publishers we can in on this, and then double down on indies. And, like, yeah, that might end up making it more like a PAX than E3 has typically been. And I know you said before, like, I mean, at this point, you're just PAX, and I don't want you to be PAX. But I mean, at this point, that might be the best thing to do. And I say that because of the E3 name. Yes, E3, the event, is not what it was before. And yes, it has lost some cachet, some clout, I guess you could call it, over the years. But for me personally, I think the name E3, that brand name, still means something. And it still has some relevance. It still has clout associated to it. Like, E3 is a sign of being in the big leagues, so to speak. So
Part of
being
me
able,
wants to agree with you, but then the other part of me says the only people that name is clout with is weirdos like us and the other people and the people listening to this. And we all know that it doesn't mean what it used to. So does it really have like, if you ask my grandma what E3 is, my grandma doesn't know. If you asked my parents, my siblings, my sister might know because I didn't shut up about it as a kid, but like that doesn't mean she's watching it. You know what I mean? Like what does that mean to an indie game other than like if they say we showed up to E3, well, people like me, you, people who listen to gaming podcasts or are in gaming podcasts or journalists, they know that doesn't mean anything. And to someone on the street, they're like, okay. that doesn't know, they're like, I don't know what that means.
Well, of course, it's not going to really matter to people that are outside the know. Like speaking about people who are in the know, in the community, and that follow the industry and everything. Like having an indie game at E3 with the E3 branding on it, like that could be a big thing for them, to be able to say, all right, we were at E3, but also it could do a lot for E3 itself to show, like, hey, we're not just a place where all the big kids come, where all the big boys come to hang out and everything. We're also a place where we welcome indies. We are here to, spotlight not just the big games, but also put a spotlight on smaller games from smaller creators. Like, it could do a whole lot for a number of different people. And that might be a smart way to try and pivot E3 so that, yeah, we're losing big name companies and big name publishers, but we're still finding success in this new E3 by, adjusting our plans. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think there's any business model that can work at this point. I think E3 is just dead. Like the company, the name, the branding, in I don't even know. I don't even think at this point Keeley might not even want the name. Keeley might be fine with his own personal branding.
Well, I imagine he would be, like, even if, like, just because it's something he created himself, he doesn't have to worry about any of the baggage associated with it. He wouldn't have to drop Summer Games Fest in order to do E3, or try and
No,
do
I know.
both at the same time. Like, I would imagine he would want to take over it and drop his own thing.
I mean pure. I don't even mean like that. I mean purely if he got the name E3 and got to use it, I don't even think he'd want it. Like not like, oh, you have to come organize it for us. I mean, if they're like, hey, we're dead, we're not doing events anymore. Do you want this name for a relatively low price or even free? I don't know if he'd say yes at this point because I think there's baggage now with the later years and everything associated with quote unquote E3. I think he'd be like, nah, I'm fine with Summer Game Fest. Which is not something I ever thought. I did initially assume that like eventually Keeley will just get the name E3 and whatever he has will become E3. But I do think that I think it's just at this point it's so watered down and it's sad. E3 was like my favorite thing ever. But like I said, once you realize it's just a state of mind, we're still gonna get dumb trailers for the rest of our life, all in June. Um, and it's become more and more spread out. So I would say for the last several years at least, it's
Yeah, ever
become
since
more of a
COVID.
yeah. Even before then, Sony was pulling out, which sucks because that's always been like the big event for me. They were the final day or the final conference for a reason because they used to put on absolute heaters, man. Like some of
Mm-hmm.
those were just absolutely nuts, and that's over. Sony now realized like I don't care about E3 being dead. I just wish Sony would commit to giving us a showcase every June, which we're rumored hopefully getting one this year. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's my favorite thing in the world is because Sony just brings out the bangers usually. No offense, Microsoft. You've got my game of the year so far, so chill. But
Mm-hmm. Microsoft
but
has had some
yeah,
good shows. Their shows were typically like not the best. Like, no, typically didn't touch Sony's. But I still think they would typically have good shows. I
yeah,
would
they were
never
bad.
watch
I'd
a
watch them. Don't
Microsoft
get me wrong.
show. Yeah, I would
I'd
never
watch
watch one
them.
of the Xbox E3 shows and be like, huh, well, that was a waste of time, or that was like lackluster. Like, I always typically enjoyed their shows, but I think ever since that 2016 Sony E3 where they had God of War, they announced Spider-Man at the end, they had the orchestra going and everything, like that was the showcase where it was like, oh, and everyone was like, this, if we're going to do an in-person showcase, it needs to be as good as that one, because that one was just like A plus across the board.
I
um
I mean, to me, even it's 2014, right? You announced blood, or I think it was it 2014? Yeah, I think it was 2014, where you announced Bloodborne, or no, maybe it was 2015. I don't know. The one where they
well,
announced
Bloodborne came out in
Bloodborne.
2015, so it could be it then.
Yeah, so it'd have been 2014. Shenmue 3, like that one was
Well,
absolutely nuts.
Shenmue 3 was 2015. Shenmue 3's was 2015 show.
Was it? Oh shit.
Yep.
Oh well.
Shenmue 3, Last Guardian, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, all in the same show, E3 2015.
That one was a great one.
That
When
was.
were they announced Bloodborne was also a good one though. All last generation really. They had the only one I didn't care for was the more focused one where they gave us like 20 minutes of every game, and I was just like, I'm already playing all these games. Are you guys really not going to announce anything new?
I don't remember which one that was. I don't
I
remember.
was Last of Us. It was Tilu 2. I
Oh,
think
Ghost of
Spider Man was already
Tsushima.
out. Tsushima, which
So
ironically enough I didn't play.
that was 2018. That was the last one that they did, if
Yeah,
I'm correct. Yeah. Yeah, I remember that one.
I think Stranding might have been one of them.
Death Stranding probably appeared there. I don't think it was like a play thing because I remember it started where everyone was in the church
Yeah,
from Last of Us
and
Part Two, and then they all moved to a different building, and then we got Ghost of Tsushima stuff there. It was a good show, but it was just paced very weirdly. It was just like
there was only like 4 games, which kind of sucked.
yeah, because at that point it was just like, all right, well, if we're seeing Last of Us again, we're seeing Ghost of Tsushima again, we're seeing Death Stranding again, and that I think after that point we were like, yeah, Sony was like, we're not gonna do that again, where we announce the game too early and then just have to show it over and over and over again every year after that.
Which I get and I understand, but
Yeah, they've learned lessons and all.
that Spider-Man 2 trailer, like that Spider-Man 2 trailer this year though, is gonna
Oh, I
it's
was
gonna
thinking
hit.
about it. I was thinking about it the other day. I was like, man, that trailer. Whenever that trailer comes out, like,
It's gonna
I can't even imagine what's gonna be like.
yo,
Man, it's gonna
you know
be
what's
so
gonna be
good.
even more wild? When we
What?
get a full-blown Wolverine trailer right after. It's gonna hit so like I said, we're gonna come on the pod immediately afterwards and I'm gonna be like, would you like to admit Tyler was right about his Insomniac statement from earlier this year? And you're gonna be like, yes, I
No,
would.
I'm not saying that Insomniac is not a top tier studio. I'm not saying that at all. All I am saying is that I'm not gonna sit here and say that
They're
like they're the
whatever
inverse
Bethesda's
of
worth, they're worth
Bethesda.
double.
I don't know if I'd say that.
I would 100% say that.
No, here I can hear an argument for it. I'm not gonna say it's a wrong argument. I just don't know if I would say that
Insomniac
myself.
can deliver me 2 9 out of 10s but before the Bethesda eventually delivers me 1 7.5 out of 10.
You mean one 10 out of 10 that
No,
that
not
is
even
like,
remotely
whoa.
close. Oh, well,
Mm,
then if you're calling Bethesda as a 10 out of 10, then those 2 Insomniacs now get bumped to 10 out of 10s. Because,
sure, by all means, go ahead. I'm not
okay,
gonna
I'd
sit here
rather
and
have 2 10 out of 10s in a 7 year span than one.
as
And
as what I, you know, but
that
again,
one
it
might get
also
delayed and actually become an 8 year span. And then,
again also
oh, what would you know? What would you know? Insomniac just gave me another 10 out of 10.
speaking of real quick, we touch on this real quick. I don't know if you saw his tweet, maybe you didn't. Um, Joseph Morin from the Trophy Room podcast, that PlayStation podcast, he had put out a tweet after Starfield's new release date saying, "All right, hypothetical situation: Starfield and Spider-Man 2 are announced to be releasing on the same day. Who moves, if anyone moves?" I personally think that one, if both of them were to be released on the same day or like same month/week, Spider-Man moves. Because even though Spider-Man is a big name, Sony would not, in my head, Sony wouldn't want to have yet another one of their first party games be overshadowed by like this industry juggernaut of sorts. They would want to give it its own space and time, even though Spider-Man is Spider-Man and it's a big name and Spider-Man makes money.
Starfield. So here's the real answer. Starfield moves, but Sony never puts it in that date. Here's why. That date sucks. September, not the best window for
The
releasing a
first
game.
Spider-Man came out in September.
That's true. You're right. But they also, I don't think Sony fully knew just how big that game was going to be. Because if you look
Mm-hmm.
historically, they do not release their big ones in September. Um, and so I think they obviously know. Look at Miles Morales. They learned the lesson. It was a November release. So I think October at the earliest, probably in November. November is a big date. But also, my like Spider-Man 2 is going to again shatter single player records
Mm-hmm.
for like they are going to crush sales.
Oh, for
Starfall
sure.
what Starfield would have its ass handed to it on a silver plate if those games go against each other. Starfield's moving, but I think Starfield does have that Game Pass element, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what they would be worried about losing because there's less of an investment to just picking up the controller and playing that game. What you risk is being that game that goes, oh, it'll go on my list to play later, and you play Spider-Man, and then life happens, and then et cetera, et cetera. They can't risk that. They need this to be a priority for people. So Starfield is moving. Sony knows Spider-Man's a priority for people.
See, that's the thing. I could for both companies, they're both the priority game. Starfield is a priority for Xbox.
Sony's more arrogant right now.
Sony
Sony's
is,
not moving.
but again, I think that Sony knows that if they know what Starfield is, they know what they're going up against. And I said this on Twitter. Spider-Man can go toe to toe with Starfield because it is Spider-Man. It's going to break records. It's going to be a gangbuster for sales. PlayStation 5 will be the best-selling console this holiday season solely
Tyler,
because of Spider-Man.
Tyler,
I
look me in
know
the
this.
eyes. Look me in the eyes. You tell me after reading that Jim Ryan quote from earlier this week, that is not a man with the arrogance to stay in that date no
He
matter
is,
what.
he
They
is
are not
arrogant enough
moving.
to
I
do that.
promise you.
But that's assuming it was even coming out in September anyway. I personally believe that Spider-Man is more of an October November game. That's what I think
It's
personally, just because it just makes. I yes, the first one was a September
I'll
game,
plant
but I
my
think
flag right
this
now. I'll
one.
tell you what date it's coming out.
See,
Give
like
me a
the
sec.
first one was September, but I think that this one just October November makes more sense. That way, it's
Oh
in
yeah.
that holiday season rush and everything like that. And
Put it
it's
in the bag.
Spider-Man. It's gonna
Spider-Man 2,
crazy.
November 17th, 2023.
I can see it. I can see it.
Maybe they won't go 24th. I think it's too late in November.
They want to do it
Maybe the
before Black
10th.
Friday.
Yeah. It may be the 10th or the 3rd, but I'm like, it could be any one of those 3 Fridays, but I put my money on the 17th.
I can see it. I can see it happening. Ooh. Oh, I'm excited for that game. I'm excited
I'm
for
playing
that
my
one.
flag. And
Okay.
Wolverine, I'll put money on this. 2024. Book it. It's not going to be any later than that.
You're saying 2024?
Insomniac's had this is their thing is they do like back-to-back years with just giant games, and you're like, how do they do this? The secret, probably a little bit of crunch.
I hope not.
They're just that good.
I can see it being 2024. I can see that. I think 2024 at the earliest is realistic. I think 2025 is more likely. If it's 2025, I think it's a spring 2025 game though.
If it was any other studio, I would say 2025. The thing about Insomniac is we always go, that's not going to meet that date, and it does. It always does. It's wild how like even this would be the real test if COVID actually hit them, because if COVID actually affected them like substantially and pushed things back like a large amount, it would be these games that would happen on. It wouldn't have been the ones releasing mid COVID. So we'll see. If it's 2025, I guarantee it's a COVID thing. But my money would be like, I would put my hard-earned money on a 2024 date, a date and release for definitely they're going to announce it for 2024. But I would also wager that they make that release date. And then, yeah, November 17th, 2023 is the Spider-Man 2 release date.
Okay.
Book it, folks.
We'll see if you're right when we get that date.
If there's a FanDuel promo for that, go ahead, spend $20 on that. You're welcome. There's your little Black Friday gift when you get $300.
Let's switch over to talking about Resident Evil 4, because this is a very disappointing story, frustrating story, but at the same time, it's hilarious because of how mind-boggling it is. All right. You said you hadn't heard about this yet, right?
Yeah, I had not.
All right. I can't wait to hear your reactions because I was hoping you hadn't heard about this. So, Tuesday night, GameStop began emailing people who ordered the collector's edition of Resident Evil 4 in store, which, by the way, the Resident Evil 4 collector's edition was a GameStop exclusive thing. Okay. Keep that in mind. They began emailing people who pre-ordered it in store to let them know that their order was canceled. And then this spread to people who ordered it online as well. So you just get all these people being told, my collector's edition is canceled. What's going on? What do you mean? I can't get it anywhere else. What's happening here? According to an internal email that Kotaku saw, GameStop was blaming this mass cancellation on a change that the company made to their inventory software last year, which I had heard about last year, and like it did cause issues with other things last year as well. The quote that they have here is, quote, "This situation was one of the last major issues presented by the SAP implementation last year," end quote.
They hit him with the old razzle dazzle.
With the razzle dazzle. So here's a little, I guess you could call it sizzle add on to this. So to soften the blow, right? The email also states that they will be offering customers the option to change their pre-order to the standard edition of the game with a $10 discount. So you get it for 50 instead of 60, or 60 instead of 70. If the game is
as someone that works as online customer service, I both feel for the people at GameStop Also, this is hilarious.
This
Because
is why I wanted
GameStop
your take.
obviously has so much negative, uh, you know, it's weird. I do feel like there's this cultural thing where now it's like there's either negative or there's people that are reacting very strongly to that negative PR. Like, listen, I think what really makes this hilarious is the fact that they're they have the exclusive for this and they dropped the ball. But I'll tell you what actually happened. 100%. This is what actually happened. Um their inventory system did not account for how like the in-store pre-orders were separated from the online one. They sold I would bet my entire life on this. They sold all of the inventory for the pre-orders online. And I hate to be that guy, but in 2023, if you went in store to GameStop to pre-order there, I mean, come on, what do you expect? Just do it online. Like, I I I would bet my life, and it's easier. And the reason why they universally did all the in stores versus doing like some in stores because there's probably no real like with the in-store ones, there's no way to tell, okay, was this before or after? Like their system, everybody assumes that like, oh yeah, there's a way. I promise you, the way online inventory works when you're like on a massive scale like this, there's actually not their system's not set up to know like, okay, this in store was placed before this online, et cetera, et cetera. That's just not how it works. So it was easier for them to just go, okay, it's going to piss off less people if we just cancel the in-store ones and we're going to do it this way instead of canceling some online and then keeping some in-store but canceling some in-store. It was easier for them to do the clean sweep. It's not the sexy explanation. I'm sure some people would be like expecting me to get on here rant, but honestly, I kind of understand it. And listen, does it suck? Yes. Also, don't be a big baby about this and try and like be a Karen online over GameStop. Like, I'm not even a GameStop guy. I'm not really a defender, but like this stuff happens as someone that works online customer service for a giant retailer, bigger than GameStop. It's just our system not that great for online inventory. Like I can promise you, this kind of stuff does happen. Does it suck that it happened for your Resident Evil 4? Yeah, but also sometimes, like I would just say, pro tip: just try and buy it early on when it's hard to like you gamble because maybe it's actually not worth anything and you overspend a little bit. But also, if it becomes super rare in the future, get it early on so you're not overspending as much. But it sucks. Yeah, like I feel for those people, but at the end of the day, it's just one of those like this stuff happens. It's how it works. And learn your lesson. Never pre-order something in the store. Like, come on, do it online.
Well, that's the thing, like even the online, just the fact that like so many cancellations are happening, whether it be in store or online, and like this was, I feel like the blow would be less than even more if you could get the collector's edition elsewhere, but like it's only at GameStop. It's just one thing after another that just makes this just like a death after 1,000 cuts, type situation. We especially would take it to context, just as you said, like all the other issues that GameStop has had in recent years, which all the other issues people have with GameStop. It's just like one cut after
Well,
another. And like when you read like the Kotaku article linked to the GameStop Reddit, where employees talk about GameStop related stuff or whatever. And like the employees were like, yo, like this pissed me off so bad because like now they have to explain it to people and that they're the ones who have to deal with the backlash and everything and all. And then like there were
don't
other
get me
people
wrong. Like,
talking about there were other employees talking about how the new system has messed up their pre-orders for other things that weren't this. So like how like they were pre-ordering other games or other items that GameStop sells, but like they were having trouble getting it or whatnot, or it wasn't happening because of this new inventory software that they have going on. It's just like no
yeah,
one over
I
there is just winning in this situation right now.
don't get me wrong. I feel for the employees more than anyone.
Oh, of
Because
course, you should.
especially not just in store, but also I'm sure the online associates now, because the way people commonly misunderstand this, like online and in store shit is separated pretty much for every major retailer. Customers don't assume that, oh, you're online, you can't help me with in store stuff. No, I can't. Like their line is probably like, I apologize, we definitely don't want this to happen. You got to go in store to complain and get anything. Like if you're trying to get money, whatever you're trying to get out of this, go in store because like realistically, online people can do shit. For like in-store stuff, in-store mess ups, which this is considered, even though it's like a broader structural issue. So I feel for everybody on the GameStop chain. This sucks. But also, like I said, don't be a Karen. Like you're not gonna get anything out of this other than like your little $10 coupon. Just take the L and go pre-order, or like, well, you can't pre-order somewhere else. Go, like I said, buy it on eBay whenever it first launches. This thing might drop in value. You know what I mean? Like you never
Mhm.
know. It could, or if you're that worried and you think you're that certain it's gonna be it's like worth a lot or such a huge Resident Evil, just pay $10 on eBay, man. It sucks, but big deal. This is life sometimes. It blows. Take solace when GameStop dies 3 years from now. You'll be fine. I promise.
Yeah, I was thinking about, and when this happened, I was thinking about like any pre-order snafus that we might have had in recent years. Uh, and the only pre-order issues I ever had with GameStop happened because of COVID, and it was right when COVID started. Uh, so for me, I had 3 games pre-ordered. I had Persona 5 Royal pre-ordered and fully paid off, and then I had the deluxe edition of 7 Remake pre-ordered, partially paid, and then I had the collector's edition for Last of Us 2 partially paid at GameStop. And it was the GameStop right by my house. COVID happened. Then after COVID happened, the GameStop by my house closed. So it was like, oh man, what's going on with the pre-orders? Because like that store is closed now. Where are they? And I think that they had said that the pre-orders got transferred to a different location, to a different GameStop location. That's not too far from my house, but it's a different one. So what I ended up doing was I was like, okay, can I get my Persona 5 Royal? Because I fully paid it off. So I had like email, I sent a message on Twitter or something. I was like, can I have it like just mailed to me? Does I have it shipped to my house? Because it's fully paid off. Can it just be mailed to my house? And had to work around to do some things, but they mailed it to my house. The other ones, I wasn't able to pay them off because it was a thing of like the timing and everything. I was like, you know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. I will just pre-order them from Best Buy or Amazon or somewhere else, and then take that money and shift it over to something else at GameStop. And that's exactly what I did. It worked out because I think I forgot what it was. It was something about for Sever Remake. It was the fact that I was like, all right, I'm not about to wait around for this and maybe not get it day one or whatnot. Like I wanted it then, so I just pre-ordered it somewhere else, and I was like, I was moving money to something else. Uh, but yeah, with Persona, I was happy that I was able to like, hey, can this be mailed to me? Because I fully paid it off. Mail it to me, please. If I wasn't able to have it mailed to me, I was gonna have to get it in store when I didn't know when stores are gonna be open again. Because the GameStop that the pre-orders got moved to was in a mall, and the mall wasn't gonna be open for like quite a bit of time. So I was like, help me out here. And it worked out, thankfully. But
I was gonna say I
yeah.
don't have any GameStop pre-order issues because I pre-order through Best Buy, baby.
I've never pre-ordered anything through Best Buy. I hear people say it's a good experience, but I've never done it.
Yeah, I don't pre-order a ton. I'm not a pre-order guy, but despite being a collector, um, but Best Buy, I had my Switch that all worked out. Launch day,
Nice.
showed up, no issues there. Got my Link Tears of the Kingdom amiibo there. Did Metroid Prime recently, and that one was just that was just the Wario Link I happened to be successful with. That one I was less choosy about. But my PS5 ended up being through Target. That was like right
Same.
around launch window. Yeah. Um,
Launch day for
that
me.
was yeah. I was not that lucky. All right. It was
It
like
was a
three
fight
days.
for me to be able to make that happen. I will
It was
say it
three
was a
days
fight.
before New Year, but I made it
Mm,
happen. Oh, my only pre-order issue I've ever really had is my girlfriend pre-ordered the Psychonauts 2 edition, um, which still rules because it goes for like double on eBay, and even though it hasn't released, but fucking I am 8-bit. I've got a bone to pick. I'm mad, but at the same time, this is all pre-release stuff for like these kind of companies. Because my girlfriend was mad, and I was like, "No, this is why people hate limited run games because they do this shit all the time." But it was like originally, oh, we're gonna ship, I forget when, but like it's way past that. And they're just like, oh, it's gonna ship eventually. And I'm just like,
Like, what is eventually? When is
yeah,
it? At this point, it's like, I mean, I can see for some people be like, this at this point, I don't even want it anymore. Like I've moved on past it at this point. Unless it's a sunk cost that we're like, I already put my money into it. Just like just give it to me whenever you get it.
I'm just weak. I'm imagining the guy that doesn't have an Xbox and is like so mad because they already sunk all this money into it and they're waiting to play Psychonauts and they don't want to spend $60.
It's like, come on, I don't want to do this.
Because I do want to play it on my PlayStation. I want to play Psychonauts too. I've debated, and I obviously don't want to buy a digital copy, blah, blah. I've debated because I was originally like, do I keep it? Do I keep the game itself sealed in my collector's edition? So I've thought about buying a separate copy of Psychonauts 2 to play and then having the sealed one that comes in the collector's edition. But I'm like, is that psychopath behavior? I don't know.
Does the game mean that much to me? Is it?
I
That
really
important?
liked 2 as my game of the year that year.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite games. It's just a really, really genuine. Love it. I love that game. But at the same time, man, paying 45 is like what it went on sale for recently. And I was like, yeah, is this my opportunity? It's just like also getting a little impatient, I think, of me. It's just like, when are they gonna ship the fully collector's edition?
Send it out. Send it.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Collector's editions. Love them.
But if there's anything you take from this, people, don't be a Karen to GameStop. Yes, GameStop sucks. It's not their employees' fault. Just move on.
Right. Blame the executives. Always blame the executives. Let's throw some brief mentions right now. Not too many of them. First up, Redfall will support crossplay across Xbox, PC Game Pass, Steam, and the Epic Game Store, which is good news. Good news. Despite being praised for its combat and parkour, amid challenging reviews, a quote that was a direct quote from Square Enix, the challenging part, Forspoken sales were, quote, lackluster to the company. Unfortunately, I mean, you see it coming from a mile away, especially when like they kind of had really high hopes for it. It still sucks.
If you don't speak publisherese, I'm gonna make this real clear for you. 2 ain't happening, y'all.
It's not. I mean, I talked about it last week. I talked about it last week on the show. I think it was last week. Yeah, when you weren't here, about the Luminous Productions, the team that made Forspoken, getting absorbed back into Square Enix. And I was like, some people are seeing it as a good thing, like, okay, yeah, they'll have more support and all. But other people are seeing it as like, or maybe they're going to be a support studio now and not be able to make their own things and pursue a sequel. And I was like, there's good and bad with it. And I'm more disappointed because it's like, man, like I think Forspoken is a really good game. It's not like the best game ever, not a GOTY contender, but I have really enjoyed it. And I think
you're going to be so excited for an E3 conference like 12 years from now when they bring back a sequel because they're desperate for franchises.
I would love a sequel to Forspoken. Like, at this point, I haven't finished it, but I do think like a sequel would, like, if there was like room for, if the story ends where like a setup for a sequel is like there at all like that, like I think a sequel could definitely improve on the things that this game lacks in. So it's a shame that a sequel will almost certainly not be happening. The DLC, though, there is still DLC for Forspoken that they're working on. That's still coming out.
So the DLC is never good.
I hope this is good. I'm hoping that it is. Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak is coming to PlayStation and Xbox on April 28th. It already came to PC and Switch in the last year, but it's coming to PlayStation and Xbox this year after the base game came to PlayStation and Xbox this year. Exo Primal is releasing on July 14th, and an open beta will happen from March 17th to 19th. Internet is required to play the game when it comes out. It's going to require an online connection, but it's also coming to Game Pass on day one. Will I play this beta? Probably not. I don't know. Probably not because of time. Also not too interested in Exo Primal, but hey, it's happening if you're looking forward to it. The PS4
Kmart Dino Crisis, y'all.
We have Dino Crisis at home.
Yeah, exactly. We have Dino Crisis at home.
The PS4 and Xbox One versions of Hogwarts Legacy have been delayed to May 5th in order to provide the, quote, best possible experience, which, I mean, do what you got to do to make that game work well on those platforms. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, has reportedly been delayed, according to Jason Schreier. He notes that it is likely just for polish and not any major structural changes. He didn't have a date. This has not officially been announced by WB or Rocksteady yet, But when Jason Schreier reports on something, you can almost guarantee it's confirmed. It's
Take it
actually
to the bank.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Jeff Grubb followed up on this by saying that he has heard that the delay might actually be up until 2024, not later this year. So, two different sides to this story, two different ways it could go. If it is later this year, we were talking about this before the show, but if it's later this year, okay, most likely just polishing stuff up. If it is delayed to next year, that implies way more serious changes or fixes are inbound for this game. And like either way, it like if it's just a polished delay, fine, but it's still a bad look. If it gets delayed to next year, that's a really bad look for this game that was supposed to come out last year and got delayed to this year.
Yeah. I say eat the crow and just change the game.
At this point, you can't.
What if they never release it? That would be hilarious, right? They
Just
have to. I mean, they
consistently
have to,
delayed.
but
Yeah, they have this. This is a Suicide Squad DC game with the Justice League in it in the Rocksteady universe, like Arkham universe. There's no way this game cannot come out. It has to come out. It's just a matter of when it comes out and how good it will be. I'm
I
hoping it's good.
mean, there's some games that have not come out that were this high profile. Remember that Star Wars game? What was it, 1313?
Yes, that was an idea that then became what a Boba Fett or a Jango Fett game that was just straight up canceled. Like, but we never saw anything more than just the initial concept trailer for it.
No, that had a full release. Like, well, didn't have a
No,
date, but it had like
it
it
was
had a
all
trailer for it.
yeah, just that trailer, but that wasn't like the game. That wasn't who we were going
Yeah,
to
it
be
was
playing as. No, that wasn't the game.
Star Star Wars 14, 13, 13. I
That
promise you,
trail
that was an
that
actual.
trailer that trailer was yes a thing, but the actual game was going to be a Boba Fett or a Jango Fett game. We were that trailer did not have that in it
No,
at all.
so this was before Lucasfilm had been bought by Disney. Disney said they were turning it into a Boba Fett game. They
I
were
gotta
like
look
they were
back.
rebranding it all, and then whenever they bought it out, then it was like they quietly killed it. It was very much real. It was very much like it was originally before Lucasfilm ever got bought out. The development process had started before the Disney merger had even become a thing. They were planning on releasing it, and it was not a concept. That was just the game. Then it got canned. Then it was like Disney was like, "Hey, we're taking it and we're making it something else." And then they were just like, "Kill it," but we'll tell them like a year from now. That's exact. Yeah, it was very
I
much an
gotta look more
actual
into it. I gotta look more into
like
that.
journalists played it. They played the game like as is and everything. Like the trailer that was released was very much just to like this is the game. It was not a concept thing. It wasn't like the Zelda Wii U trailer, you know what I mean? Where it was like people were like, "Oh, this is what Zelda's gonna look like on the Wii U," and it was like Nintendo was like, "No, it's not. That was never a thing."
Mm-hmm.
This one was very much like, "Yeah, this is the game," and it was basically just Star Wars Uncharted, you know.
I remember that.
But
I gotta look back
but
into
yeah,
it. Interesting stuff. I will say though, it being delayed opens up the May end window because it's like, all right, if it's not coming out the end of May, I don't have to worry about skipping on the game for later on in the year because of Zelda and other stuff. Like if it comes out later in the year, cool. It opens up the window. Now, maybe it gets put up against the other holiday games. And
May has had a
imagine
weird
if
year. May is like
imagine
gone.
imagine this. Imagine if Suicide Squad comes out within the same month as Spider-Man. Just like
I mean, it's getting crushed. Yeah.
it's good. It's just gonna be like, man, this is what you could have been. This is what we would have wanted from you, and you are not that, unfortunately.
It's so hilarious they decided to stop just making single player games right as single player superhero games are like incredibly popular.
Yeah. Final brief mention here, and this is a funny one. Sony is worried. About they've been worried about Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard for quite some time. Been doing everything in their power to fight it, keep it from happening. And I've always seen both sides of the coin. I understand the arguments and all like that. But this one is just very funny. I'm just like, okay, come on now. Sony's worried that Microsoft might mess with Call of Duty on PlayStation. Some of their hypothetical claims include a PlayStation release with bugs that aren't apparent at first, but they will end up, when they are revealed, cause players to switch to Xbox in order to avoid, quote, playing their favorite game at a second class or less competitive venue, end quote. They also have some other hypothetical claims, such as Microsoft ignoring PlayStation specific features, making performance worse on PlayStation than Xbox, or producing a worse multiplayer experience on PlayStation. And it's like, while these are all well and good hypothetical situations, come on now, guys. Come
Yeah.
on now. There's no world where it makes sense for Microsoft to do any of these four things.
I this is all hilarious. But B, I think it would be one of those situations where like the concern is valid and it might even happen, but
Exactly.
it never happens in the way that you think, right? It's like, well, performance is worse, but it's not like they're going in and making the code worse. What ends up happening is they're focusing so much on the Xbox version and the PC version, they just port that shit to PlayStation, and then that's how you get a run. But it's not like, oh, let's go in and make the code worse. It's just like that's just how this stuff ends up happening when one version is not your priority. But it's not like, and yeah, the mandate probably comes down as like focus on Xbox, but it's not like a, hey, make a broken game for PlayStation. That's not how it works. It's not this cartoonish villainy. It's just, this is kind of just what happens in these situations. When you have like this is, I mean, developing for multiple consoles at all is kind of a bitch, it just, sometimes ports go cleanly, other times they're, as we've seen throughout history, they're buggy, broken messes. So I'm sure like one of those PlayStation Call of Duty games that absolutely would have happened, but it would never have been on purpose. But it's hilarious that Sony is just like trying to, they
But
know this
what
too,
if?
obviously,
What
but they're
if it
just being
is?
like, hey guys,
This
they're going
could
the Fox
happen.
News approach right now, which cracks me up.
I know you said it's not some cartoon villainy type thing, but like you said that, and then I just imagine Phil Spencer, who doesn't have a mustache, but Phil Spencer putting on a fake mustache with like the long twirly ends and like stroking it, like putting it on and then stroking it purposely as he says to the developers at Infinity Ward and Activision Blizzard, I want you to put in the code for PlayStation's version of Call of Duty that the game will crash as soon as it hits the main menu. The only way to fix this crash is to delete and reinstall the game 5 times, upon which you can get to the first level, and then it crashes.
Yeah. It was leaked earlier this week. We were talking about this pre-show that Jim Ryan apparently was like told a reporter or journalist that or no, they were from Microsoft, my bad. They were just like, yeah, we don't want a better Call of Duty deal. We want to block your merger. And I just imagine Jim Ryan now as like Michael Scott in that moment where he's like, I'll kill you. And that's just Jim Ryan right now. He's throwing a fit. He's doing anything he can, which cracks me up. I did initially kind of think they were holding out for like eternal Call of Duty for some kind of clause that says they get it no matter what, but apparently
Yeah.
that's not their strategy.
I mean, you know, I don't anyone who that was always a thought as well, but at the same time, it's also like, come on, like realistically, they don't want this to go through. They're going to try to stop it any way they can because it's Sony. That's what the
But
business
it's
is. The business dictates. Let's try to prevent our competitor from getting this, giant advantage in some way, shape, or form, and all. It
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. I mean, but it's capitalism and it will go
Precisely.
through. So it's mostly like you would think they'd be smart and be like, well, what's the best possible deal we can hold out for?
We'll see what happens. Of course, the saga is ongoing and never ending. My camera somehow just like slightly turned as we recorded, and I don't know how or why.
I
Um,
really did not think this was the one that was going to take forever, but here we are.
Here we are, indeed. But let's talk about what we've been playing real quickly. You said you finished Atomic Heart after we last recorded. You want to share any of your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the ending took some massive balls. I feel like I'm probably in the opposite. I think some people are like, oh, it's okay, it's kind of bad, but the ending sucked. I'm like, listen, this game is dog shit. It is one of the worst games you'll ever play. But props for the ending. So that took it from like a zero, took it from like a 1 to a 2. So congrats, Atomic Heart. Um, you're now no, it's probably still the worst game I've ever played. I don't know. I try not to play bad games, but that'd be interesting to construct that list. Um,
The worst games I've played type
I'll
list.
as a bit throw Red Dead 2 on there just to make people mad, but then take it off. Even though it's nowhere close to that, obviously, but I feel like
don't
that's become a bit for me is
don't
that I'm a
don't
Red
do
Dead
it.
2 hater.
Don't do it. Don't do
But
it.
yeah, that's it.
I'll get Dutch to come after you. Dutch will formulate a plan to come after you and get you ahead. Okay.
Listen, I've played that game. It's going to take them literal years to show up to my house. Those horses are going to fall over a million times. It's not good.
They're gonna need
But
to eat along the way as
the
well.
gameplay is not good.
Brush their
The game
horses
itself
too.
is good, to clarify. But yeah, so that's really been it for me. Moving and everything's been super hectic. So even though I haven't been on for now, this is 2 week hiatus. It's just not been a lot of games, but hopefully I'm able to play some. I know we got Resident Evil 4 coming up soon. I want to play that badly, but also I'm just like, what else is there really to play? I feel like I've missed stuff, but all I've really got that I know for a fact I have to play is like Metroid Prime. So
Yeah, cool. Me in the past week since I was last here on the show, since last episode, done some more Destiny 2, continuing the seasonal story, getting more abilities for Strand. I'm really enjoying Strand. I was using the grapple first, but I've changed from using the grapple mainly to using now the shackle grenade, which you toss them and then basically any enemies it hits in its radius, it hangs them up in the air and they're just like stuck in the air, hanging there for a little bit. Now you get some like free pot shots in on them. So I've been enjoying using that. Just kind of working, getting better equipment, better power gear. Just having a good time with it, enjoying it really for the most part. Uh, Started the third playthrough of Final Fantasy X this week with my girlfriend. For I'm doing it because I'm working on something. I'm doing something,
yeah.
and I'm not
I
gonna.
know why you're doing it. It's just funny.
Yeah,
You're like, it's the third time, guys. We're going through again.
yeah. I'm not gonna say what it is. On the off chance that she listens to this
I was
and
about to say,
hears
how
it,
hilarious would it be if your girlfriend is listening to this?
I have purposely not talked about it on Twitter because sometimes she'll go on my Twitter like to look for information for like if she's planning to get me something, she'll be like looking to see like what I tweet about it or all like that. I've purposely not tweeted about it because I don't want her to find out or get any hints. But I have an idea in mind. I'm doing something. Tyler knows what it is, and I need to do. I want to do another playthrough of the game alongside her because she's basically an encyclopedia for Final Fantasy X knowledge. So it'll help me. It'll help me with what I have in mind and all like that. So that's been going
Yeah.
well. For those who have played the game, we have just reached Luca, which is the town, like a big bustling city in a sense. In Final Fantasy X, Blitzball is basically like it's this main source of entertainment in the world of Spira. Think of Blitzball as like soccer for the our world essentially. Like it's huge. It's like that, like in terms of popularity. Um,
But it's not
so
actually good.
depending on who you talk to, some people like playing Blitzball in 10, others
Oh
people
no, that was
don't.
a soccer joke. My bad.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like some people don't like playing Blitzball 10, they hate it. So like depending on who you're talking about, it's not good or it actually is good. Um, but yeah, Luca is this town where at this point in the story there's about to be a big Blitzball tournament and everything. So we literally just got there. We're gonna be doing a Blitzball tournament soon. Uh, and hopefully we will both win it on the first attempt because the team you go up against, you're not meant to win against them. But if you do, you get a cool accessory. And then after that, I also played last night the Resident Evil 4 demo. Went through it one time, and again, it's the opening section of the
Does
game.
it? I was gonna say, does it feel spoilery? Because like for the actual game, because I'm gonna play it. You're more like I might wait, whereas I'm like I'm in there like swimwear day one. I'm playing it. So was it? Do you think it'll help get me more excited? Is it kind of unnecessary? I'm just kind of trying to
so
gauge the vibes as far as that goes.
so it's the opening section of the game. It literally is Leon. I'll just say like the step by step. It's not a spoiler by any means. I think
Yeah.
step by step, Leon he enters this house, this hunter's house, has his first encounter with one of the village people that are infected, and then he makes his way to the actual village, and then you do the iconic village fight, the iconic village holdout fight, where you're just trying to survive against the village residents there as long as you can. And then as soon as that fight is done, the demo ends. So like it took me half an hour going through it. I only died once, and that was in the village fight. Because I was like, I ended up letting myself get surrounded by enemies, and I was still trying to like adjust to how the game plays and all. But then my second time doing it, held out. I survived. I almost died. I literally almost died at the end, but then I managed to make it out by literally saved by the bell. Made it out there alive. And I was like, man, this is intense. and I don't know if I can handle a full game of this intensity, but dear Lord, I still want to play this game. It is very good. It's very fun. And of course, it's the beginning section. So you don't like all the depth of like crafting and whatnot isn't there. But like in terms of setting the tone for how intense this game will be and the action that you could expect from this game, it sets the tone. And that's what the village section is known for. It's known for being that moment of the game where like it's setting the stage for, oh, this is the type of game I'm gonna be getting here from Resident Evil 4. And it was great. It was a great experience. Terrifying for me as someone who doesn't really play Resident Evil games. I still have to finish 7. But like the more I think back on it, that second time doing the fight, yes, it was still nerve-wracking. Yes, my heart was still pumping, but it wasn't as terrifying as it was my first time going in. Because like even still, I know this encounter. Even though I've never played the game, I know what happens when you get there. I
Yeah.
knew that fight was about to go down. It's scary and intense doing it myself. But that second time, after I had died the first time, I'm doing it. I'm like, I can do this. I have a handle on it. I know now.
Yeah.
Okay, pop the head, shoot the head, do the melee kick. Shoot the head, do the melee kick, and run. Just keep on moving, keep on moving. Don't let yourself get cornered. Go into a house, run, keep them at bay. Like just survive by any means necessary. Aim well, save your ammo, get through this alive. Um, it's good. It's a good demo. It's a good one. 10 gigs for download on the PS5 version.
Not too bad.
5 gig download for PS4 version. Yeah, it's awesome. And there's like, I think from what I've read online, you could also unlock a special difficulty for the demo. There's a secret weapon you can find in the demo. I read how you could find it. If you want, I could say how you get it now. But again, like that's something where you would, yeah, it's something where you would do it like after, like if you want to repeat playthroughs to see how far.
I'm not a sicko. I don't want a special difficulty. I like horror, but horror games are tougher for me. So, and as somebody that has not really played I played 5 and part of 7, and part of 8 as well. But those were tougher. Well, 8 just kind of had some like Metroidvania bullshit, and I hate when a game's like, hey, go all the way back through this to do the, and I'm like, no, thank you. Yeah, we're done here.
Yeah.
But 4 is the one that's so iconic and everything. So this is gonna be my first time playing through it. I might play the demo. I don't know. If I'm like not feeling anything, I might just download the demo to give it a run. But I'm definitely playing this bad boy day one, and looking forward to it. But if there's an easy difficulty, I might be doing it on easy.
There wasn't a difficulty option for me. Like when you first
so
start
like
you first start it, there's no difficulty. But I think
Gotcha.
the secret difficulty in this, I don't know how you unlock it.
It's just like an extra thing.
It's just in it. So maybe if you go to like replay it, I'd like go back to the main menu, start up again. Maybe that's when
Makes
it pops
sense,
up.
yeah.
But yeah, when you first start, no difficulty. It's just like, hey, here's like a brief recap of Leon's life so far from Resident Evil 2 to now. And then here we are, Resident Evil 4. It's good. It's fun. I don't think you lose anything by playing it. Like, I don't think it gives away too much of the beginning of the game. And again, it's only half an hour. It only took me half an hour to get through it. But if you don't die, you could probably get through it faster, like maybe 10 minutes faster or so. It's very short, very sweet.
Just a taste. Yeah.
Yeah, just a little taste at the beginning of the game. You're just like, oh man, this is it.
Like you like this? The real game's out in 2 weeks.
Precisely. Exactly. So it was a good demo. I enjoyed it. And that's it. I don't have anything else to say. You got nothing else?
I'm good. I can't wait to get back and play some more games and talk about them next week. And hopefully it's not as bone drying news, so we're not just riffing on other stuff and talking about Game Pass for 20 minutes.
There was another story I was gonna put in here, but I was like, for the sake of time and everything, I was gonna keep it out.
It was whatever it was, probably not that important.
It was interesting, but it was interesting, but we'll talk about some other time maybe.
If next week is this bad, you can throw it in next week.
We'll see. Maybe. That said, thank you all so very much for watching and or listening to this episode of the Play to Win podcast. Check out the site, playtowingames.wordpress.com. It's a home for all of our content, so check that out. Hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Play to Win Game for updates on the show and also just to chat with us as well. Subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell on YouTube, leave a like, share the video, share the show, and leave a comment down below on your thoughts on anything we talked about this week. whether it be Resident Evil 4's demo and the collector's edition Fiasco, what's going on with E3, how you're hyped for Starfield or not hyped for it, let us know. Also, leave a 5-star review on podcast services and subscribe there as well. Tyler, where can people find you?
A Good Game We Lost on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
Lovely, lovely. And you can find me over on Twitter at TylerMiller2496. Tweet about games and anime. Between about My Hero. Love it to death. That said, thank you all so very much for watching and or listening, and we will talk with you all next time.
Have a good one, everyone.